So I wanted to talk a little bit about professional development and its contribution to recruitment and retention. There we go. Seamless technology. There we go. So I've become a bit of a fan, a bit of a super fan actually, of Matt Kraft, who's a researcher in the US, and I've got two bits of research of his which I want to quote. The first one, if you've seen me talk before, you'll have definitely seen me quote, which is Kraft and his colleague Pape had a look at North Carolina. In North Carolina, they've been running teacher surveys for over a decade now. What they found was in schools where teachers are reporting lower levels of support, they find that teachers, broadly speaking, tend to improve for the first couple of years, and then they find those teachers don't seem to be having any further impact on student attainment pretty much over the next sort of 8 years, and in fact you can go 10 plus and it doesn't seem to change either. However, in schools where teachers are reporting much higher levels of support, where they're reporting much more professional development, greater levels of trust, they find that teachers not only improve more rapidly in the first couple of years, they continue to improve. Now, essentially, what that's showing is that on average, teachers in those schools where teachers are reporting greater levels of support, they are helping pupils more each year than they did the previous year. Now, that's clearly the sort of school that we want every school to be, the sort of school where simply by being in it, you become better at teaching and you become better at helping pupils. The next really important piece of research is what Viviane Robinson noted about what effective school leadership can do. And she identified the 5 top actions of school leaders. Now, she essentially said, look, there are 5 key things that school leaders do that appear to have a positive impact on school outcomes. We've got things like making sure you're spending money in the right ways, making sure everybody feels safe to come to work, making sure everybody understands the goals and expectations, and having some sort of consistency around teaching approach. But by far and away, the most effective activity she identified in her systematic review of leadership was helping teachers improve themselves. That was becoming a lead learner yourself, ensuring that teachers are continuing to improve. So once again, we see that by changing the culture, by changing the leadership, we can help teachers help pupils. Then there's a more recent paper from earlier this year by Matt Kraft, and he said, what are the things that seem to improve levels of teacher turnover? So we've got more sustainable levels of teacher turnover. And he and his colleagues noted 4 key things, so leadership and professional development. When we improve leadership and professional development, we get much more sustainable levels of teacher turnover. Academic expectations, relationships, collaboration, which will be another theme today, and once again this idea of safety and order as well. Somewhere that you feel safe, somewhere where there is some sort of order. So actually all of these things are not only associated quite strongly with improved outcomes, they are also associated with improved teacher retention. We know that simply focusing on generic tips for teachers, it might make teachers perform better or look better when you observe them, but it doesn't seem to have impact for students. We know that one-offs, as much as we like putting them on, they don't seem to translate into improved outcomes for students. We know that simply saying, well, you look like you're performing this way, let's try and make you perform a bit better, focusing on what teachers do by itself doesn't seem to help pupils. We have to follow that thread through for how are we going to help students learn. Things that get in the way, we know that workload is a problem. We know that marking, planning, data entry, we know these are big issues. We know we're obsessed in this country about some of those things. In fact, we do hours and hours more marking than almost any other country, and yet we don't seem to be performing massively better as a result. The amount of time in the classroom delivering. We see ministers zooming off to, Shanghai, for example, and getting very excited about what's going on there. I hope they're also noticing the significantly lower workload, because they make time for teachers to work together and they say we need to invest in teachers working together to improve. We know the lack of trust is a real issue. Now, this isn't only a senior leadership issue, actually, this is teachers themselves as well. We all need to be creating an environment where someone says, I'm trying this, I made a mistake, can you help me? We all create an environment where people help each other. We know teachers must spend money on professional development. We know schools must not say, well, actually, you know what? No one's massively going to notice if we cut CPD, and it's going to put off a painful decision elsewhere. It's extraordinary. We're just in the middle of doing some analysis of the spending of the spending levels of schools around professional development. Some quite shocking figures of the numbers of schools who seem to spend nothing on professional development whatsoever. And I'm sure if you ask them, they'll say, oh, we're going in-house. But how are they tapping into the nation's expertise, into the world's expertise on what great teaching looks like? So we know great leadership that enables teachers to grow helps teachers believe more is possible. It enables all colleagues in that school to say, I could be better, I'm going to learn because more is possible. We also know it establishes relevance, but also it moves other things out of the way. We know great leaders establish the priorities and say, learning is a priority here. We're going to find the right expertise, we're going to move other things out of the way, we're going to make sure that your professional development and growth is a real priority. We also know that professional development needs to be led from the top. We need head teachers to be talking about their own learning. We need senior leaders teaching and being seen to teach, inviting comments from others, having a professional dialogue, and not simply saying, oh, I've got a badge that says senior leader, now I know all about teaching and you don't, I'm going to tell you. I'm a learner too. We're all learning. You have something to contribute to me, I have something to contribute back to you. But also making sure everyone is a leader of professional development. All these activities are strongly associated with professional development that improves outcomes for the young people in our schools. In order for professional development to work, we need trust and respect. We also need teachers to be developed in their careers. We also need teachers to be focused on the subjects they teach and curriculum development, but we also need the procedures, the amount of time for professional development, the processes, we need them to improve as well. So what do we do first? Because it's all very well to say, let's make professional development better, but all of these things need to happen. And actually, for all the schools I've been working with, we've all said, actually, yeah, we need to keep tweaking all these different areas. So if we had to choose one priority right now, not only to help young people, but also to help recruitment and retention, what would we choose? I think that's quite a tough question. That's why I'm not going to answer it, and I'd like to leave that for you.